Lacey from Split Hero. Adam has just experienced what it's like to have a newborn and have a webinar coming up. So first of all, congrats, Adam. Thanks for making the time in this very stressful period.
Yeah, no problem.
We are talking about split testing today. We are talking about improving conversion rates for your e-commerce site, specifically WooCommerce, but obviously all the principles we are talking about are applicable to any type of e-commerce or even any type of funnel, really. Before we dive into this, I would love to have a little go around to introduce ourselves. And obviously we are missing Lee Jackson, who's way better at doing these introductions than I am. So Adam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Adam Lacey. I live in the southwest of the UK in Somerset, which is the countryside for anyone else interested. Like I said, recently just had a daughter. It's just gone 4 months old, and I'm the founder of Split Hero. So Split Hero has been live for probably coming up to 3 years now, and we basically help people do split testing in WordPress.
That is really exciting. Picha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a UX and design expert working with Cloudways as a Maverick, just like you, Jan Koch. What about you?
what a lovely segue. Thank you so much. Yes, I am Jan. I'm the owner of Virtual Summit Mastery, proud Cloudways Maverick, just as Picha, and Lee from Agency Trailblazer and Event Engine. Adam, split testing obviously is your forte. It is what you specialize in, what you know a lot about. For everybody who's joining us today who isn't as familiar with split testing, what is it and why is it important?
Sure. So split testing is the basis of basically trying to improve your conversion rates on whether that be your website in general, so whether that be a landing page, product page, or anything in between. It's all about improving your conversion rates, and split testing does that by comparing two variations of an item, whether that be a page, a button, or again, anything you can think of, and seeing which one resonates better with your audience and tracking that.
So it's essentially, sorry, Picha, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Adam, before we even get into it, because I'm nosy, and because I'm sure you told me, because if you remember ages ago, at the very beginning, I did the first review of the Split Hero website.
Yes.
Which, by the way, Split Hero has a fab logo, and also small wins in life. There's no centered text anywhere to be found on this site. So, but apart from all that, so thanks for that. But anyway, I think that the logo is great. The design is just simple and beautiful. I really like it. And I wanted to ask you, how did you get into it? What made you, what were you before? Are you a WordPress developer by birth? What is it?
Sure, yeah. So I run a WordPress agency for about 8 years, and I still do a little bit, but we don't do as much now. Mainly focusing on Split Hero. So yeah, I was essentially Split Hero was born out of to scratch my own itch, like many products are. So it was purely an idea I had down the pub, and I had this idea, and it kept coming up for about 2 years. I had this idea, and you know, speaking to friends, I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. And you know what it's like. You sort of just sit on it and don't really do anything with it. And it got to a point I was like, I'm just going to put it out there, see if other people have the same problem of not really having a good solution. And I actually found not only did people not have a good solution, many agency owners like myself actually avoided it on the basis that it's thinking it's super complex to do. So let's just kind of avoid that whole conversation with the client and potentially leaving money on the table just because they didn't really want to get involved with it. So yeah, that sparked sort of Split Hero's idea and allows other agency owners to be able to use our tool to essentially resell the service to the clients really easily.
Yes, because it has to be said that now there are a few similar tools out, but it used to be a nightmare. It used to be really difficult, or if not difficult, very expensive. And I love that the idea happened in the pub. That's where the best ideas happen. And in fact, we already have a question for Adam from Matt Davies.
That's always helpful.
How many?
My desk doesn't have any drawers, so the answer would be none, unfortunately.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Matt. Adam can fit no caramel bars on his desk.
Yeah,
But,
that's a tough one, though.
yeah, no, it's been really interesting to see the whole landscape develop. Like you say, there are a few more tools out there now, and I think that's great for everyone. You know, we're never shy of having other people in that space. You know, it's not a problem. And like I say, every tool also does everything slightly differently as well. So, you know, it's really great to see the space expanding even more, because to be honest, it just brings more and more people into the split testing realm, which is better for everyone. But like I said, I remember when I first started trying to run my own split tests, and it was very much obviously using sort of Google experiments or whatever it was called at the time. They're always changing the name, and it was just very time consuming. And I mean, I'm not the cleverest guy out there, but it was certainly baffling me trying to get it to work correctly. So I was just like, there's got to be a better way.
I think they call it Google Optimize these days, and I've played around with it recently, and yeah, I had similar experience. Maybe we are both stupid. Maybe there are people who are way smarter than us. Yeah, clearly we must be.
Clearly, you must be idiots. I mean, everything in your life points to that. Everything in your life points to that. So
that's it. It was like, you know, I just want to track how many people click this button, and it was like, okay, you need to put this JavaScript here, this JavaScript there, and I was like, really? Like, okay, and yeah, and just as an FYI, with Split Hero, you just add a CSS button class, and that's it.
Yeah. I've been fortunate to use it for one of my summits, and it was really, really easy. Before we jump the gun, though, on executing the split test, there is a little bit of preparation that needs to go into split test, right? There, you cannot just pick any tool that you like and say, I want to test this and this and this and this, and just run with it. How do we set up a split testing campaign properly?
Yeah, it's really about sitting down and planning properly. It's about planning what your desired outcome is, deciding what pages you're looking at, or like say, so if we just went for the standard sort of landing page and you're running ads on a landing page, so it's really making sure every part of that page is optimized as well as possible, and what's the desired outcome for that page, whether that be someone signing up for a newsletter, making a purchase, or obviously filling in a contact form or something like that. So really, it's all about the planning. So once you've got your initial design done, and you know what your outcome you want the user to take, it's then looking at how you can make that better, or how potentially could you change something up that your audience might react to better. And then really that will give you your second variation to be able to run side by side and seeing what your audience really resonates with. And you can keep doing that, up to really 4 variations roughly is a good number to really give you an idea of. Sometimes the thing is, split testing as well, we have some rough rules on what works and what doesn't. I mean, Peachy, with UX and UI, stuff works and stuff doesn't. But then sometimes with split testing, you'll find if you've got a very specific audience, there'll be just one certain thing that really clicks for them, and you won't know unless you split test it and find that out. And you can really make your conversion rate shoot up massively just by something so simple. So it's always worth testing.
Yeah, I have to say that right now I am finishing off the validation module in my UX, this huge UX course. And so I was thinking about you a lot, Adam, today, because as you say, it's an essential part of UX. It's the one thing that people are not used to so much, at least, designers, traditional designers were not used to the testing bit so much. And yes, it's the most important thing. And as you say, it may yield really incredible insights that you hadn't thought of. And actually, it's not, you don't use it just for conversions. Today, we're talking about it, and we'll get into it, we promise, specifically about e-commerce, because this webinar is part of a series that we're doing on e-commerce more specifically. But I just want to say that actually A/B testing is usability testing as well. You can test usability, you can test a number of things, not just conversions. I mean, we're talking about conversions here, but it can be a test that you run even to check what people find easy to use or not. And actually, I think it's such a good idea to use even with clients, because you say, for instance, that a client wants a design change that you think is untenable and it's just crazy. Maybe it's, that it would be inaccessible, but they don't care. They're going to care for the hard numbers if you run a split test and it shows that people can't use the design that they like. So there are so many applications for it that go way beyond just conversions.
I have a really good example for that, actually. I'm working with a client right now who wants a mobile layout with the mobile menu, the burger menu, on the top left and not on the top right, because
familiarity.
That's the CI. Yeah, the logo is always on the top left. And I try to explain them that's not the smartest idea in the world, but they insist on it. So running a split test would show pretty obviously how high the bounce rate would become. At least that's what I'm assuming, and that would be part of that split testing campaign. It's like you have to have that theory, which in my case was the mobile menu on the left is stupid. I would put it on the right. And in return, if you put it on the left, the bounce rate would increase. Can we have just one theory per split testing campaign, Adam, or is it possible to test multiple things in one go?
Sure. So this is one of those ones, there's no kind of hard and fast rule. I typically recommend sticking to one idea at a time, usually because if you're changing too many things, you don't actually know what worked. So if you change one item and you see an increase, that one item or that one change was positive and delivered the desired outcome you were after. So in e-commerce, it's sake, you delivered more sales. Great. If you decide to change, maybe we'll change this, and we'll change this, you don't know what actual piece of that change made that positive or negative effect. And likewise, you could miss out something really good. So say you do free changes or variations on a product page, you change 3 items and one of them might be really good, but it might be completely overshadowed by 2 negative ones. But because they're all in one test, you're not going to know. So it's really important to, in my book, make one strong change at a time and measure the results.
Very good point, because also with this type of testing and also others, they tell you what someone does, but not why. It doesn't come with it. You can't ask that question. So I think that's a really, really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever come across it in the agency world, but I remember typically happens in sort of tradesman industries, but I'm sure you've come across, they have terrible website, but they get loads and loads of leads. And I even know of a couple of case studies where agencies coming or freelancers coming built a really nice site, but for some reason, people like the absolutely horrific site and it led to more phone calls. No one knows why, but you can't argue with the data at the end of the day.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know. And you just sit, I think that's when you just have to hold your hands up and go, I don't know what people are doing.
Well, I would be defending, obviously defending my side always. I would like to see it. It really depends on what the agency did, because if they did something too clever, such as putting the menu on the left to be innovative, to do an innovation, then maybe that's why. But anyway, it's what you say is true. Now, can I just ask you to bring us back to the e-commerce mood? Because soon enough, we're all going to be planning for our Black Friday campaigns. Oh my God. To me, the summer's barely started, but yes, that's the reality of it. So how do you use split testing specifically for e-commerce sites? And I'm asking in the sense that, as you say, do we use it? Would you have 2 versions of the same product? What would be the right way of doing it? Because as you say, there is also a wrong way of doing it.
Yeah, sure. So from a technical point of view, it's still quite hard to split test e-commerce in the WordPress space, but that completely aside, so the biggest selling point of any e-commerce store, I mean, if you're doing a landing page, that's one thing. So if you're doing a landing page around a product and then you're getting them through into a sales funnel that way, that's one way, obviously, doing sales. But if you've got a typical e-commerce store, then pretty much your product page is going to be the key to getting someone from looking at that product to getting it into their basket. And there's so many different ways of trying to engage that user. You know, do you actually, instead of having a main image, is it really good to have a video of the product or something like that, you know, straight away versus just your standard image description, you know, what I'd call a typical WooCommerce layout. And I think we're actually seeing quite a trend at the moment in the e-commerce space of people really breaking away from the traditional layouts and trying to not get so close to Apple's layouts with their shop pages, but, you know, definitely break out of the traditional molds and taking people on the page for a journey, and really, like I say, using more video, a lot more description and stuff like that, a lot more graphic work. But even for split testing purposes, like I say, it could be a case of changing the button color, adding even, I've seen reports of something like a 6% increase by just adding a box shadow onto a button, you know. So things like that can make a hell of a difference, and it's such a minor change, but really could get people adding your product to the cart far more. And then again, we can look at the again, depending on what you can do, it's a bit tricky with WordPress and WooCommerce, but we're always looking at changing the checkout for obviously as flawless checkout as possible. I mean, this is why Shopify spends as much money as it does on their checkout system, and to be honest, and why it's praised to be one of the better ones, because it's so easy to check out, and frictionless checkout, I think, is probably the best term there. So really, it's like persuading the user interest in the product, getting them onto the product page, persuading them to get into the cart, and then making sure they follow through the checkout. So you've really got kind of 3 levels there and 3 stages of the buy-in process where you can potentially split test.
Wow. So is it Shopify that asks me, is it Shopify that talks to Stripe in such a way that then if I visit a shop, it just tells me just you know, if I'm in the checkout cart, it just says, yeah, just input your code and you'll buy this. Is that Shopify?
Shopify, yeah, the Shopify's checkout's really streamlined. So normally they obviously most account systems obviously work on the basis of email addresses and passwords, and Shopify do a lot with mobile phone numbers now, or cell phone numbers. So it's really, you can just put your cell phone number in, put your delivery addressing, and put your card details in, and that's it, all done straight away. Like no sort of loads of unnecessary fields and stuff like that, and you get all your delivery updates by SMS. And like I say, it's just a real seamless checkout experience. And again, it integrates really flawlessly with stuff like Apple Pay if you're on your Mac, or on your mobile, again, even more so. And obviously, we know mobile purchasing is up across the board. I think, you know, people are shopping more than ever on their mobiles and iPads. So again, it's making sure even split testing what work on desktop might not necessarily work as well on mobile. You know, we always know we have to adjust everything from mobile and smart devices anyway. So why not test a different layout or a different structure on mobile for your product page and seeing what actually works? Because, like I say, a long sales page might work really well on a desktop, but you know, people don't want to keep scrolling on their phone if they're ready to make the purchase.
Yeah, and in fact, now as I'm working on I'm actually creating a usability test also, as well as working on the module for my course. And I was just thinking right now, instead of asking people, would you prefer this layout or this other layout, just make them do it. You know, give them 2 versions, and that's perfect.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the classic, like say, do you prefer? I mean, people do that based on, like you say, just what they like, don't they? Typically,
yeah.
So like you say, if it's when you just take it down to raw data, it's kind of what they like is irrelevant anymore. It's really about what works.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you have kind of told us what other elements do you split test in online shops? I mean, you said already there's three different phases as something that you can split test.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just diving into those phases and making informed decisions, like say making a plan around it. So, like I say, the most simplest one straight away is most people do is I've got a product page, let's change the button or the add to cart button. Is typically the first simple one you can try, and it might be a case of changing it from instead of add to cart, buy now. Let's see if the language change makes a difference. So, and like I say, then it's like, oh, well, we could change color, we could change the hover effect, or we could change add a box shadow, little things like that. And then you'll reach a plateau of where you're like, yeah, I'm kind of happy where it is. Nothing I do makes too much of a difference. You can move on to modifying another element.
That is so interesting that even though these small things that I probably wouldn't even notice myself when I'm visiting a website, that they can make such a big difference. What are the prerequisites that we need to have in place to run a split test? How much data, for example, do we need to collect before we can make an informed decision?
Yeah, sure. So split testing is one of those things where you do need a decent sample size. We're essentially doing almost scientific testing, so you need a decent sample size. I'd say a very basic starting point would be if you had sort of 1,000 users a month. You could probably test your original plus one variation, but ideally, like I say, you'd want more than that. But that gives you, if you're in the high hundreds, low thousand, you're in a place to at least start considering it and working out a plan to move forward.
So the stakes or the barrier to entry really isn't that high, because when you're running a WooCommerce site or an e-commerce, 1,000 people a month should be very much the baseline, I would say, to have a profitable online shop.
Yeah, exactly. It's where you're going to really start seeing the benefits. Anything less than that, there's just too much human behavior involved. Like I say, there's some people like stuff that other people don't. So what we're trying to do is get a consensus. If you have too little data, you just literally get into what people like, what people don't like, versus like the majority of my target audience really resonate with this. So yeah, it's just about making sure you validate your data, really.
Yeah. So if we have little traffic, we have to be more patient until we collect enough data, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to run it over a much longer period of time.
Yeah. Or just throw $100 on paid traffic.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a little bit different from specific usability tests, because with usability tests, you could ask 5 people and it would be enough, issues would come up. Whereas this is it is a bit more a game of numbers, would you say?
Yeah, I would have said so, because we're really, like I said, everyone's audience is slightly different, whereas usability is usability across the board, no matter what the audience is or who the audience are. So, like I say, there's always going to be some key things that work well for everyone, but some specific audiences and certain niches where they will definitely resonate with something different to someone else, So it is really interesting over time. You find customers that do things slightly differently for their niche, and it works so much better. And like I said, when we're talking about usability testing and stuff like that, I find it's attention to detail, isn't it? That really makes the difference between a good website and a standard website.
Definitely. So I'm going to ask now: have you run split tests on your own website, on the Split Hero website?
We have a little bit. I'll be honest with you. The website is due an overhaul, so we haven't really done anything with it at the moment. We're currently working on a bunch of other stuff in the business. We're working on a new release as well. So everything has kind of been on our pause because we've got a big release in the works at the moment. So, but yeah, we have done previously, because for us, it's all about obviously taking users from the homepage through what we do, trial sign up, and then for us, we split test our emails from our platform for onboarding users. So when someone signs up for obviously a trial, obviously they get nurturing sequences. We split test all our emails as well. And again, it's really converting those users from trial to pay signups.
That is so cool. I didn't even think about split testing emails. You can do that with abandonment cart sequences really, really well, can't you? When you just send out different formats at different times.
Also, some e-commerce stores, I know I've dealt with a few before that deal in beauty products and stuff like that. And generally speaking, I know there's a plugin for it in WordPress where they know roughly how long a product's going to last. So they'll know in 4 weeks that person's probably going to be running out. It's all about timing that email at a good time. Yeah. And they'll automatically go out and say, hey, you bought this, you're going to be running out. And again, you can split test out what sort of language works for that user, you know, because typically, I mean, even if just from a economical point of view, someone from a more wealthy background is probably going to resonate with different language to someone from a, you know, middle class background.
Yeah. So I have an idea. I'm bouncing it off live to, we haven't discussed it first, but as you were speaking, I was actually going on your website, which is really well explained. I know you said it's due an overhaul, but I was thinking if someone doesn't know how it works, I think it would be really helpful to actually go through the how it works page of your website. Adam, what do you think, Jan? Shall we share it?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to start a screen share?
Yeah, I'll do that because I think it's super useful because it's whether, you know, it's your tool that works like this, but it could be any other. So I think it explains, I mean, nothing wrong with promoting Split Hero. It explains how split testing works.
Yeah, so, absolutely. It gives you the core principle.
Plus we have Matt Davis and Mel Fallon cheering for you in the comments. So that's a social validation we need to showcase Split Hero right there. Let's bring it on.
Here we are. So this is how it works, is the page. And well, you can do it, Adam, because you know better than I do. But I was looking at it and I was understanding, which is no mean feat. I'll tell you that.
Sure, no worries. So for my example, let's say we're dealing with a landing page. So you say you're paying for ads and you send in all your ads to a landing page, whether that's from social media or AdWords or whatever. So what you do, say you got your designed landing page, you would send all your users to that landing page. And what our tool does is it dynamically splits all that traffic between the landing page you created and the variation you created. So you'd typically design your first landing page, duplicate the page, make the little change you want to make. Then in our tool, you input both of those URLs into the campaign creation system. And then you go through, you set stuff like, what's your conversion goal? So we've got a couple of options now and more on the way. So like I say, you've got your 2 landing pages, you put those in and say, I want to test these pages. The next step would be, well, what do you want to do for conversions? So we have page conversions, which is, I want to measure how many people land on a thank you page from a form, for example, or how many people get to the cart. Is you could do it that way. Or we do a button conversion as well. So how many people click the buttons on this page? So, so we have 2 different conversion types so far. So you'd select which one you prefer. So in this example, let's say page conversion. And then you would say, okay, so what page is your conversion page? And it pulls in all the URLs from your website. And you just select, yep, the thank you page I've created. That's my conversion page. So anyone that lands on one of these 2 pages, then ends up on that page, is a conversion. And then that's what we do. So the tool automatically, dynamically starts splitting visitors, roughly 50-50, and we'll show each one, like I say, unique variation, and we'll measure that data. So we'll measure the amount of visitors each version's getting, the amount of conversions, and then the conversion percentage as well. And then, we literally just measure all the data and pull it out in a really, really easy to read format. So you can actually take action on that data because there's some really fantastic tools out there. But the problem is that you get so overwhelmed with the data that you feel like you can't take action to implement what you've kind of learned. So we're all about keeping it simple.
It seems. Am I muted? No. It seems really, really simple, and I actually can't wait to. Sorry, something happened. I made a noise. I didn't mean to. And actually, I was. So
Something happened with your audio, Peter.
yeah, something did happen. Hang on. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So you figure this out. I think what stands out to me when using Split Hero, Adam, is the ease of use, as you've said, because it is super easy to track conversions, and usually that is, I think the easiest thing to track a conversion is by tracking a on-page conversion when somebody clicks on a link or clicks on a button or something like that. And then you can obviously define goals and analytics that then track the next step, what happens after that click, how do people go through the funnel. But that initial click is what you want to optimize usually, and then you work your way through that funnel. What other types of goals can you track, or should you track?
Really, like I say, in e-commerce, I think the biggest one is going to be getting people to the shop page, and then, like I say, getting people to add to cart is going to be your two biggest, and obviously the checkout as well. It's really, like I say, it's a three-stage process in that funnel. And each part has its own importance, really. So I think, but for us, like I say, we do button conversions at the moment and page conversions. We're currently working on external conversions as well. So, for example, if you use a appointment booking software or something like that, and their confirmation page allows you to add a bit of JS, literally a copy and paste, then what our tool could potentially do is, if you had a landing page and you want to track how many people actually book a meeting, you could run a split test, and then our tool would look for that external script and trigger the conversion for it. And what we're also doing is, not everyone likes to duplicate pages. We've done loads and loads of research into it. Once it's set up properly with canonical URLs and stuff like that, there's no SEO issues with duplicate content as long as it's set up correctly. But I know some people still don't like to duplicate pages, and I understand that. So we're also working on, which is in the next release, it's going to be, you don't have to duplicate a page. So, for example, if you use a page builder, you could duplicate the module and just putting a short code around each one, and we'll flip between the two on the page.
That is really, really cool. That is insanely good, because that just, as you said, it solves so many issues for the shop owner, and especially when we're talking about e-commerce and we're talking about product design pages, you split test your the most frequently bought product, and you don't have to duplicate that product to run multiple split tests, which then creates issues with product IDs and inventory and stock and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's been our biggest problem, and I think WooCommerce has been our biggest motivator for that, because, like you say, you can't change. I say you can't. We did manage to work out how to do it, but it was too complex. But like I say, running two, for example, because the template hierarchy, like I say, trying to run two different product layouts files and two different shop layout files, it got really complicated and not really easy to do. And kind of, well, we could do it if certain page builders, but doing this makes it much easier. Like I say, if you just got your product page and you've got those short codes, you can make the changes on that page and try to do two different things. And likewise for the cart page is one that's often really overlooked. And you could try, for example, split testing two offers at the top of the cart, something like that, two different coupon codes, which one works better? I know it sounds silly, but it's not always something. You can offer too much discount as well, so things like that. You could have a banner at the top and, like, say, split test two different banners on your cart quite easily, just to see which one works for your audience.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
Increase the AOV.
I can't believe I have not been using this more. I just can't believe it. I just making me think anyway. It's
we are
always
all
a good
clearly
time.
stupid then.
Every single one of us. But I was kind of interested in finding out from you, Adam, whether you think that there are. You were mentioning earlier that there is a right way and wrong way to do it if you want. So are there any typical mistakes that people make if they haven't done it before very much or don't have much experience with split testing?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess the most common one is they don't really know what they want to get out of it. That's quite common. Or they're just changing everything at once. So like I said, they're doing completely two different landing pages. And to be honest, that's not necessarily wrong, but I say it's wrong to start with. So like I say, because really split testing is about changing the finite details a little bit at a time until you find what works. But I always say there's nothing wrong with, after you've been doing that for a little while, like I say, things will start to plateau as natural. There's nothing wrong with throwing a curveball in, design something completely new and throw it into a campaign. But to start with, keep it simple, one thing at a time, know what you're trying to achieve, and make sure you take action on the results. If you run a campaign for 3 months and then decide not to do anything about it once it's all said and done, then, it's a waste of time.
I have to say that being clear on what you want to achieve is such a fundamental thing, and it applies to lots of other aspects as well, where people, I think they fail to make this essential. It seems basic. You need to know what you want, but it's the one thing that people don't get. You remember my, the reviews that we used to do, and when I used to review the UX, and I mean I still do them, but the first thing is when you land on any pages, what do you want me to do here? What is the purpose of this website? And it's the number one thing, and it's the number one thing that you need, and it's the number one thing that people don't get. Very few websites have that. I mean, yours does, because it says, look, WordPress A/B testing made easy, start your free trial. I mean, it couldn't be clearer. So, and also you say where, WordPress. So if I have Spotify, I'll know I don't need to bother because you won't help me. So it's it's fundamental to what is it that you want, and I bet that a lot of people wouldn't be able to actually pinpoint that, even with something as easy as product page.
Yeah, and to be honest, I find it makes a big difference. It also, for going back to sort of agency life side of things, it makes the difference between the agencies that charge a few $1,000s and charge $25,000 for a 5-page brochure site. This is the stuff that makes the difference, and this is what clients are expecting to see and have you talk about, is the problems you're solving for every single page and the user journey. We can all make a pretty website to a degree, but that's a differentiator, for those types of clients. Like I say, typically the clients I still deal with now, that they know they're kind of clued up on this kind of stuff, and they have a plan. They always come to us a plan, and they want us to refine it and deliver a design that works based on their goals they've set out.
I think that goal is not an easy task, as if you are an e-commerce owner, because you have so many variables that you need to juggle at the same time. You have traffic costs, you have inventory costs, you need to increase the average order value, you need to increase the lifetime value of your customers, you need to get more orders in general, you need to recover abandoned carts. I mean, where do you even start? That is what I think many e-commerce owners are overwhelmed with.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can only do so much. If you're just a solo person, you've only got one set of hands, and it's really trying to break down your jobs and do, like you say, try and create yourself a task list for the day and get through as much as you can and take one thing at a time. If you're gonna, like say for us in Split Hero, the website's kind of pretty much fallen by the side for now because we're focusing on other stuff. I've got someone else working on the email sequences for me at the moment, and then once all that's done and the new release is done, we'll circle back and then sit down and completely reevaluate our own website and go, actually, what do we want to achieve here and what are the goals? And we'll pretty much take ourselves, well, I'll take me through the standard kind of client process and hopefully come up with something a little even better.
Yeah, I think it's all about defining that one lever that brings the biggest results for your shop right now. And usually what you do is when you have too high traffic costs, you have two things. You can either decrease traffic costs or you can increase average order value, so that you offset the costs. So what do you focus on in that case? I would probably go with average order value so that you can then keep increasing the traffic to the site and scale.
Yeah, the thing is with ad costs, like you say, you're not really ever going to decrease them. Like, if you're doing AdWords or whatever, or Facebook, you can obviously optimize over time, but they kind of are what they are. If you want to play, if you want to play Google's game, you've got to pay the bill. So like you say, your best bet is increasing either average order value, or if it's type of product, it can be obviously repeat ordered. A big thing now is obviously subscription ordering, offering discounts to get people into subscription payments. And to be honest, that's what I do with my baby's milk. Like it's a high quality milk that it's in some supermarkets, but not all of them. And because we're in the countryside, it can be hard to find. But on their website, what they do is they're like, just sign up on subscription. You get free delivery on subscription instead of having to hunt in the shops for it. You say how many tubs a month you need. That's it. They'll send it to you. And then I don't even have to remember to order it when I'm running out because I know it will be here in time. And then likewise, once she gets to 6 months old and the milk changes to the next one, they take care of it automatically. They know when she's going to be 6 months and they'll change what they're sending me. For me as a new parent, that's it. They got my card details. They bill me. It turns up. Job done.
Yep, sounds familiar.
But it's a really slick system. So I think things like that, depending on what your product is, subscription payments are really strong. Like I say, you're offering value to the user, not just by ease. Really, we all live busy lives now, so it's making it as easy as possible.
So what you were saying is, for the friends, the agencies that are listening to this, is that if you become familiar not only with the testing, the A/B testing concepts, but also with the tool and the features that the tool has, you can go to clients and actually offer them an extra service that they can't know about because they're not experts. They're experts in what they sell, but not in this, and offer them as an extra service that will put you, head and shoulders above the competition who hasn't bothered becoming familiar with the tool and finding out all that it can do. So it's an extra possible revenue stream that you add to your agency services. So it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Even better than that, it's a recurring revenue source, which is they always say recurring is king. It's twofold. It, like you say, it positions you as an expert in your client's eyes. Even more, you're solidifying that value to your client. And like you say, some people will sell it as an add-on service on a monthly retainer, or some people create like a higher tier care plan and do it that way and sort of roll it into a sort of almost a marketing level care plan where you analyze every month and adjust, and you have a meeting once a month with the client, you talk through the results and that kind of stuff. So I've seen it sold both ways, and both ways work absolutely fine. I mean, I know there's those cheaper tools, there's more expensive tools, but if you just take our tools, a cost on average, I've seen most split testing sell for anywhere from sort of 250 up to 4 figures a month quite easily. The subscription costs are completely unimportant at that point, really. So like I say, it's leaving money on the table for both you and for your client. If you're, at the end of the day, you're producing more results for your client, which makes them happy. So it's going to potentially lead to more referrals. You're not like, you're not conning them out of money. You're offering them a really good service. It's going to potentially give them more customers. In the e-commerce space, if you can, like I say, boost the average order value, or, say a shop goes from $10,000 to $20,000 a month in sales, they're going to be pretty happy with what you're doing, and they're going to pay you a monthly retainer without any concerns.
Absolutely. And it also, what I love about it is that it reinforces the new concept. It's not new for us, but it's new for many clients, that even a shop or any website are not a finite thing like a brochure. They are something that you need to keep testing and improving and optimizing in order for them to really deliver the results that you want. And I think it's a big help towards getting clients to make that mentality shift, I think. So thank you.
I mean, it's an ever-changing landscape out there. I mean, we know from just in the agency world that, the tech's always moving, but trends are always moving, and people perception socially is always changing as well, and what was hot last year is completely irrelevant this year. And so getting clients to stop seeing a website as I paid for it once, that's it for another 10 years, and seeing it as a constant ongoing improvement really helps, and it's really going to deliver dividends to them in the long term.
This is so powerful. And as you've said, at some point, the pricing of the tool becomes irrelevant. And I've just looked at the pricing page for Split Hero. Your premium is $99 a month. That lets you run 10 active campaigns and white label reports. So that's probably enough for at least 5 clients when you run 2 campaigns a month. And that is, you can easily charge $200 to $400 per campaign. So just one client sets off the cost for a split testing tool, and whether that's Split Hero or whether that's another tool. If you're hardcore, do it with Google Optimize, but good luck saving time with that. Just as you said, it's a really important mindset shift. Also, as a freelancer, I think that you have this recurring revenue source in your business. You just need to execute on it.
Yeah, and I think split testing is one of those things, like you say, it is a new concept for a lot of the general public and business owners out there. And like I say, if you can pick up any tool, not just ours, but for a reasonable price, why not sort of offer it to them for free for the first month and say, like, hey, I've got this idea, we've got this landing page that we've done before. Let's see if we can do this, and explain it to them and see if we can improve it. And then let data talk, sit down at the end of the month and say, hey, so this new variation we've done has got you 10 extra leads. We can do this on a monthly ongoing basis, $250 a month. How does that sound? Yep. It's quite easy way to get yourself in the door of keeping that client communication and relationship up.
Yeah. And the good thing is those campaigns, you set them up once and then they run without you having to do something about that. That is another thing I just wanted to highlight here. And then at some point you will be involved again because you need to interpret the results of those campaigns. You need to make sure that you understand the data properly. So I would love for you to walk us through what type of data we get after running a split testing campaign. Like what numbers do we look into? I think it's something with percentages of likely winner percentage, which variation of that split test is likely the winner of that split testing campaign. How do we read the data properly?
Sure. So with our campaigns, we do keep it relatively simple. Like I say, we collect unique numbers of visitors for each variation, the number of conversions for each variation, and then that conversion percentage for each variation. We don't at the moment. Basically, we declare a winner based on whatever one delivers the higher conversion percentage. But it is up to you as a user to sit there and say, hey, there was 0.1% difference between the versions. So really, this test isn't that effective of a test. Like, yes, we had a winner, but realistically, this wasn't a successful campaign. We need to try something new. So it's really, like I say, it's up to you to interpret the results, look at the sort of traffic numbers you you were getting, the amount of conversions. And then, like I say, some of the more expensive tools offer stuff like time on page as well, which is also it's a really good metric. So like I say, if you do have that metric, that's quite good to see. Are your users, although they're not converting, are they engaged in the page for a decent amount of period of time? If they're not, if you've got a really low time on page for a particular landing page, then you've probably got a really big problem above the fold and you're not engaging the user straight away. So it's really understanding the results and, like say, taking action on them. So even if you get a successful campaign, you see an increase, it's then planning out, what do we do next? What's the next step? So, if your variation is the better one, you need to implement the variation as your source file and then, like I say, create a new variation. So, yeah.
So it's just an iterative process, essentially, that we always set a baseline with one of those tests. We have that variation. We see which variation worked better, make an informed decision based on the data we've collected, and then we make the better performing version, the one that's live on the website, set that as a new baseline, and run the next campaign based on that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, generally speaking, depending on traffic numbers, we're not looking for 30-40% increases. That's pretty unrealistic. We're talking anything from like a 2 to 5% increase is pretty strong. So I'd say people not to get disheartened if they see a 2% increase, because that's pretty good. If you do, say on average, you do 3 campaigns a year, so you do 1 a quarter, or sorry, 4 a year, do 1 a quarter. Say on average, you do 2.5% increase every time. Well, 10% increase in leads over a year isn't too bad. If you manage to sustain that increase, like I say, it will plateau at some point. But like I say, then you look at other stages in your funnel as well,
Yeah, this is so important. I think this is a good example for a compounding effect, where you just deliver consistent small improvements, and over time they multiply each other.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. That is, you're muted, Picha. So.
Oh yeah, I've unmuted myself now. My office now is in a shop, what used to be a shop, which is amazing. But sometimes people shout past the door, so I have to, because also there's a bike rental shop next door. But anyway, it's all wonderful. So I just want to say about the reading the data. As a designer who talks about UX a lot, that is something that comes up a lot, because I think that people, and me included, we feel intimidated by data. I've never been data driven. So, and also there are people who advise against design that's too much data driven, but that's a different story. And I think it always should be taken with a grain of salt, which is what you're saying. But I think that in terms of design decision to be made after analyzing the data, just do it. Just get started. Look at the data. Draw your conclusions. If they're wrong, change again. It's no huge deal. And you may even, if it is the right decision, maybe you wake up to a 400% increase in conversions. You never know. So I think just do it. If anyone out there is as intimidated by data as I've always been, come out of that particular hole and just do it. Go with it. Who cares? You learn, and chances are that if you get started with it and get used to it, you will learn. You will learn how to interpret the data. And I bet, I'm just saying it, but isn't it? You then start really understanding your little baby and the way it reacts in a way. Probably that's what I find.
Yeah, exactly. You really, it's like anything you do for the first time. It's scary, but you're jumping in, do it, and like I say, you just get to grips with it. We keep ours really, really simple. Some tools that do the same as us and keep it simple, and there's some that are on the more enterprise level scale, for obviously much larger companies that really, really dig into the data, and it's really cool, but it's kind of some of those tools, you need a whole team of people to sit there for a month to analyze it, to work out what to do. Ours is very much like you can take it on the face of it and action it the next day, so.
Yeah. Fab. That's what we like to hear.
It's the biggest benefit of Split Hero from my experience. And we've covered a lot of ground in this episode. So I think it's a good place that we wrap up this conversation. We talked about the strategy behind running a split test, that you need to start out with a theory, that you just need to test one thing at a time so that you can attribute results properly to what you have tested, that you should not underestimate the importance of the small changes. So there was the example of changing buy now to check out now or something like that. Adding box shadows, testing different colors, testing different headlines and stuff like that. We then said that you need around 1,000 visitors a month to get reliable data so that you can run a campaign, have it sit for a month and see how many conversions you get. Probably aim for around 100 conversions per variation in your split test so that you have a decent amount of data coming in. Mistakes, we've talked about not being patient enough, calling winners too early. That's a big one. Testing multiple things in one campaign is another common mistake. We've covered way more than what I noted down here. So I encourage everybody who's watching this to watch the replay, see it again, and just take your own notes and implement what you've learned. Obviously, the whole conversation about adding a recurring revenue stream if you are an agency or a freelancer offering split testing as a service. Now, this leads into something I want to highlight, which is the agency partner program that Cloudways has been working on. It's an insanely powerful program. If you are a freelancer or an agency hosting your website with Cloudways, there is no reason not to be in this program. I think even if you're on the smallest scale, so there are 4 different tiers for this program, even on the smallest scale, you get things like a Cloudways guest post on the Cloudways blog. It has, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but I think we're at around 300,000 visitors a month, something like that for the blog post. So it is a really, really high traffic blog where you can get a spotlight on, you get an agency spotlight, you get the agency or the partner badge from Cloudways. And obviously, the higher you go up in the agency partner program, the better the perks will be. So we're talking improved support, dedicated team managers for Cloudways and so on, dedicated partnership managers. Really good stuff. Discounts as well, of course. That's cloudways.com/en/agency. Driving some more eyes on the Split Hero page, which I will be waiting to see the new version of, Adam. So you've teased us quite a bit here. That is splithero.com. Peter, where do people connect with you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Easy to find. Peter on Twitter and Peter Neri on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. And for me, I've just launched a new Facebook page for Virtual Summit Mastery. I would appreciate some likes if you are interested in that. It's just, I think, 40 likes or something. For Lee, you can catch him and all of us in the Cloudways users group. And he also has his agency Trailblazer group on Facebook and the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you have
What about Adam? Did we ask Adam where to contact him?
The Split Hero page. I was assuming that, but Adam, of course.
Sorry to interrupt, but I thought let's give him a chance.
Of course.
Yeah, no, the Split Hero page is always good. I'm always on Facebook in some of the communities as well. But Twitter, you can find me at Split Hero. It's probably one of the best places.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for the interrupt, Petra. That was a good one. So everybody who has further questions, shoot them at us in the comments. We'll see them. We'll make sure that Adam answers them. Thanks, everybody, for spending time with us today. Have a great one. Talk very soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.